Hey, Dave Kittle here. Welcome back to the Dave Kittle Show. Today's topic, today's episode, are we in a recession? And how, if so, how does this affect your practice? And how does this affect practice exits and sales? Again, Dave Kittle here, practice owner of Concierge Pain Relief Home Physical Therapy in New York City and the CEO of the Fieldmaker Group. We're currently speaking with practice owners, partnering and looking to acquire some or all of their practice. Let's get into today's episode. So a little bit more about us. We're looking to speak with practice owners in the New York and New Jersey area. And our question, have you thought about taking some chips off the table? You can potentially exit some or all of your practice, but more on that later. Let's get into the topic. No pitch, nothing to bother you with other than some free content and hopefully some advice or some suggestions about what's going on in the marketplace right now. Here we go. So the textbook definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP, and this would be inflation-adjusted GDP. So while that might be the case, the government uses a different yardstick, and you probably have heard about some of this in the news, but if not, there's an organization called the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER, and they become the official arbiter of recessions. And you probably know in 2022, in Q1, there was a decrease in GDP of 1.6%, pretty big decrease compared to traditional growth of GDP year over year. And then in the second quarter of 2022, there was a continued decrease, less, but another decrease of 0.9% of GDP in the United States. Although you may not care about GDP, if you're a practice owner, you're a healthcare provider, you're a physical therapist, chiro, physician, et cetera, you might not care about market economics, but all of this does affect your practice. It affects your staff that wants salary, they want raises, they want bonuses. There's all these market forces, and it affects the pockets, the financial bank account of the patients and clients, the folks that we're trying to help as well, right? So a little bit on that, here's from Yahoo Finance, a chart. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, we have some charts, we have some graphics. So again, you can jump over to the YouTube, check out the Dave Kittle Show on youtube.com. This is from Yahoo Finance, where inflation is and isn't. And this is a 12-month change in price. Now, of course, on here, third largest change is gasoline car. Gasoline at 18.2%. That's definitely has come down. Airfare up 42.9%, household energy 20.8%, food at home over 3%, transportation 12%, and the list goes on and on and on. But the overall inflation at the time of, this was September of 2022 when this graphic was produced, overall inflation was 8.2%. And the reason of putting some of this in this presentation and to talk about it again is because inflation does affect our practices. It affects our staff, our patients, and that's why we're just mentioning it. This topic, this conversation, I'm not going to be political at all. It's just some of the facts that we're seeing, some of the themes that we're seeing in the marketplace, and how it affects our team and our patients, our healthcare consumers. So we're not going to go one side or the other in terms of politics. We're just going to try to go right down the middle in terms of some of the numbers. And ultimately, how does that affect you as a practice owner trying to navigate all of this? And the reason why this show that we have going on is to get content in front of practice owners that are maybe looking to exit and sell some of all their practice, maybe in the next year or two, or possibly in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's where we're at. All right. So what you really care about is, and hopefully, what you really care about is your practice, your team, your staff. And this economic change or this economic situation that we're in right now, how impactful will it be? So let's take a look at a graph of the US GDP from Q1 and Q2. So here's a graph and a graphic from Bloomberg Opinion. And you see that there was a fairly strong growth of GDP over the last year or two, a little bit of a dip in the third quarter of last year of 2021. And here's the negative trend in first quarter of this year and the second quarter of this year. First quarter marked at March 31st. And of course, the end of the second quarter, June 30th. And more on that in a second. So if you're thinking about selling some of all of your practice, like what does this mean for you? What does this mean? And if you've thought about considering an exit strategy or a succession plan, does this factor into your bandwidth? Does this factor into what you're considering in the near term or in the long term? If you've ever thought about exiting in the next couple of years, like, what does this mean for you? These are just some things to throw out in terms of questions for you to reflect on, for you to think about. And this came out recently. So this is Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan. And this was October 11th. This article came out October 11th recently. And the headline is, "This is serious. JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon warns that US is likely to tip into recession in 6 to 9 months." So that would be into 2023. Again, without bringing politics in it, the traditional definition is like 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So we had that in 2022. And then we're going to show in the third quarter, we have positive news. It actually bounced back. So then rather than JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, saying that what we have already gone through in 2022 was a recession and is a recession, and therefore we are in a recession right now. What he's basically saying is he's commenting more on in the next 6 to 9 months. So in the next year, in 2023, he's saying that the US economy will be tipping into a recession. So things were not as great in the first and second quarter of this year, 2022. Third quarter we're in right now, positive numbers, which we're going to show later on in this presentation, but also some headwinds and some potential challenges next year in 2023. These are just some things, again, just trying to be straight down the middle of these numbers and reporting as we see them. So, like I said, there is some great news. U.S. economy appears not to be in a recession. U.S. GDP expanded, so positively expanded at a 2.6% annual rate in the third quarter. And at the time of this recording right now, it is Monday, October 31st. So that was better than the 2.4% gain that economists were expecting, and more than reverses the 0.6% drop that we had in the second quarter of 2022. But that's not all. The GDP, the price index, a measure of inflation, decreased from 9% to 4.1%. So it appears that inflation is potentially transitory after all, meaning temporary and just some market volatility. But when economists dug into the GDP, these trends, what they found is potentially some concerning trends. So for one, consumer spending, which is a huge part of our economy in the United States, and that includes paying for healthcare, co-pays, co-insurances, medical expenditures, medications, all that type of stuff, right? Consumer spending, which accounts for some 2/3 of the economy, is potentially faltering. Consumer spending expanded at 1.4% annual growth rate in the third quarter, down from 2% in the second quarter. Also, a key gauge of demand that strips out the trade and inventories component of the economy is inflation-adjusted final sales to domestic purchases, which rose just 0.5% in the third quarter, one of the slowest since the start of the pandemic. The trouble is that economists don't expect those negative trends to go away anytime soon, apparently. They don't expect the economy to grow at all in the fourth quarter. All right, but let's talk more about where we're at. At the same time, there's a positive GDP growth in the third quarter, where we're at right now. So back to the Bloomberg graphic and bar graph here, we have positive 2.6% GDP growth in the third quarter of 2023. So we had 2 down quarters, the first and second quarter of 2022. Apparently, the economy is now bouncing back. It does signal, if you follow the markets, if you follow these trends, it does signal, obviously, just by looking at this, if you're watching on YouTube, it does signal volatility because there's these fairly big swings, more than what we're used to. So the questions that you'll see on CNBC or some of these other business channels is, will this be a precipitous decline, or will it be the cliff? Or will there be a big drop off? So those are some of the components of what's going on in the market. However, if you're a practice owner, if you own some or all of a practice, if you're a partner, etc., the most important question for you is, how will this change or speed up or slow down your exit strategy, your succession plan? Are you looking to exit in the next 6 to 12 months? Are you looking to sell and step away and travel more or take some chips off the table? Are you looking to do that in the next 6 to 12 months? Or are you looking more about in the next 3 to 5 years? Anyway, that's something, again, for you to reflect on, think about, etc. And so again, if you and your advisor and broker are interested in speaking with prospective buyers, go ahead and feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to me, Dave at conciergepainrelief.com. You can shoot me an email there, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search Dave Kittle on LinkedIn. In the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening to this, there should be a link to my LinkedIn. You can click that. You can tap your my link there for my email. Feel free to reach out anytime. Never too early. And again, we're looking to speak with practice owners in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, but we're also open to having initial preliminary conversations for practice owners that are outside of that economic area. So that's it for right now. If you find this valuable, if you find this interesting, I would appreciate if you sent this to one practice owner that you met at PPS, at school, DPT school, PT school, etc. If there's a practice owner that you know is interested in potentially exiting or selling in the next 6 to 12 months, feel free to send this to them, even if they're interested in exiting in the near future, or they're just business minded and they're savvy with their practice. Definitely share this with them, and they might find it valuable in regards to some of the topics and things that we're helping practice owners with. Again, we have nothing to sell you. We're looking to acquire some or all of the practices, the owners and practices that we're speaking with, and we're looking to partner with them and help them offload some of the challenges or tasks that they have, whether it's marketing, hiring, HR, billing, coding, revenue cycle management, whatever it might be. So that's it from now on the Dave Kittle Show. Go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe if you find this valuable, and we'll see you next time on the Dave Kittle Show. Thank you. Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE, painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.